All right, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Let's go ahead and see what's going on with Bitcoin for the day. Taking a look at our daily, we're just basically hovering now down in this bottom area. On a positive note, we got back above 58,613 and we're ranging between there and obviously we'll probably get up to 59,000. I'm not expecting a lot of volatility for now, especially since I believe it's tomorrow. Let's see, Forex Factory. I think Warsh is speaking tomorrow. Yeah, he's speaking tomorrow at 6, so expect a lot of sideways chop for now. Not a really great time to enter a bigger trade. You could probably scalp, but you just don't expect a lot of movement, at least for right now in this market. 12 hour, 8 hour, everything's looking extremely bearish. 8 hours is the only thing that's somewhat decent for the bulls. I mean, as long as we can close above 58,613, that's not too bad. Again, I'm not expecting a huge move though. 4 hour getting some support off of 58,613. So you can see how this whole day on the hourly, we've just kind of been hovering right below it and then we finally got back above it, which is an okay sign, but it's not looking great, right? Um, looking at this week in general, where's my indicator at for that? This one. So I'm putting my weekly Monday midnight lines on. So, starting here, if we use this red line as a starting point for Monday midnight, you can see that mostly we've just been we traded above it on Monday, and again, we don't want to see that, right? We got this huge spike to the upside, and we're just seeing resistance. Um, Normally, because it's a bearish week so far, I would normally say that, you would possibly come back up, test the weekly open. You wouldn't have to, but then, you would probably fall from there. I would expect it to be bearish. However, we also have the beginning of the month. So today's the last day of June, and then we start July tomorrow. So that being said, I'm still leaning bearish, or I would like to see it be more bearish just because I want to see July get that wick down. And then, hopefully we can start grinding up higher. It's just, I mean, that's a hopeful kind of conclusion or hopeful story, I should say, that I'm painting, but it's just not looking like that's going to be the case. Especially because we also have a holiday on Friday. So tomorrow and Thursday are going to be messy because you have federal events on both of those days. Friday's going to be our holiday, I believe. It's a banking holiday, so you want to see the low Wednesday and Thursday. That's when we could possibly see 57.3. I'm hoping my limit order will get hit and we bounce from there. We could always get lower. I'm not saying that's the final destination right there, but um, it's something that I'm targeting and I'm still targeting it. I would still have my position, my limit order right there. It's going to be a shot in the dark, but we could possibly get a bounce, at least maybe to 59-ish area if we could get a solid bounce from there. Um, so anyways, that's what I'm targeting for this week. Again, I'm more of a bearish sentiment because that is where the trend is as well. Um, this is some sort of, I guess you could say it's some sort of symmetrical triangle type of formation. I don't even know what to call this, but kind of resembles a symmetrical in a ways. And most of the time those break down. And obviously, it's very difficult to tell what range we're in right now. So you can see this would technically break down to about 57.7. So this would take you down to that 57.3, 57.5 area we've been talking about. The other direction, which is not as probable, would take you up to 59.7-ish. Okay. So this is kind of what I'm seeing on the smaller time frames as far as, if you're a pattern trader, how this is what patterns, I'm seeing right now. Um, I, more than likely this is probably going to break down. We might get a pump for Warsh if it breaks down before then. We'll just have to wait and see for that. So taking a look now, let me go into my trading different liquidity heat map here. So taking a look at this, let's drop into our 4 hour like we usually do. So 4 hours showing red, like right below us. I mean, that's easy pickings, right? This just tells us that there is a very good chance this is going to get taken out before we come back up to 62. And even, comparing it, not that we're going to jump to here yet, but comparing it to Kiyotaka, it's kind of painting that same picture. Nothing really to the upside as far as big orders go, but you got plenty to the downside, right? So you got to assume for right now, unless proven otherwise, that we're going to take this out first prior to coming back up. Let's drive into our 1 hour. And from my current assumption is just we're just gonna have a slow bleed the rest of the day through the night. Hopefully, I would like to see this react when right before or during more speaking. So, hopefully we can see some sort of model or setup during that time. But until then, this is just gonna chop, could roll over, just gonna look messy. Um, the 1 hour shows us, obviously getting all this green liquidity to 57.4. Nothing new there. We do have a lot more building up to the upside. So around, even up to 60, what was it, 61.5-ish area. Yeah, so we have a lot more building up to 61.5, even to 62.140. Um, so definitely a possibility, eventually once we take out this pool of liquidity, hopefully. I would like to see, like I've told you, this is taking out the 25, the 50, and the 100x down here. So, you know, really, after that's all taken out, you'd have to check off the 10x and be like, okay, are we going to start taking some of this 10x out because that's the only thing left, right? And that brings you down to about 54, which we've talked about as well. So, it's always a possibility it could go into the 10x, but I'm currently just going to try to front run this, and basically probability tells me that there's a good chance that after taking out 25, 50, and 100x that we get some sort of a bounce there, to wreck some of the shorts. Not that we're going to fly up, but there's a chance that we at least get it into the 61 range even. So I'm gonna just kind of hold on to that for right now. But that's the only play, honestly, that I'm seeing so far. I would not want to short the bottom right here, because obviously at any given moment it could bounce up, start taking this out, and then even if you were to short the bottom and it worked in your favor, how far are you going to write that down? You're less than $1,000 now if you were to short right now, right? So it's just better off staying out. Not financial advice, but in my opinion, it's better off staying out and just waiting for this to get taken and seeing what it does, right? And you could even you know, again, not financial advice, but you could do the same thing I'm doing where you could front run it and you could put in a limit order somewhere in here and just kind of see where this goes. Um, Comparing the 15-minute to our Kiyotaka, order book map, you can see how many orders there are down here. It just really shows that there's such a good chance that we're just going to take this out before coming back up. There are some orders starting to form to the upside, except they dry out, after the 59 range, right? So once you get up to here, 59.5, 54, it just kind of dries out. So it's still a possibility we could get back up here, but this looks a lot more probable, so that you have the order book lining up, you have our liquidity heat map lining up, you have a 786 level at this area. That's 3 points of confirmation, as well as if this does get taken out tonight or even, tomorrow morning, you have the Fed event with Kevin Warsh that can basically reverse price potentially. You could get a spike down and then come right back up. So all of those things align, just kind of paint the picture to me that this gets taken out, we jump back up. Now, the bullish case is that this reverses, starts to slowly grind its way up. This gets taken out, or part of this gets taken out, and then when Warsh speaks, or even on Thursday, I believe there's a federal event, um, you would see a spike, and then it would just fall and just take this plus more. Um, Based off of liquidity, I'm not seeing, it is obviously possible the bullish case, but I'm just not seeing it as much of a probability, right? We'll take a look at the five, for the last thing here, and then we're also going to take a look at our simple map. But 5 minutes painting the exact same picture. The only unfortunate thing now is that you're starting to have some of this 25x showing up at 56.6. So just keep that in mind. If you are going to do a limit order, you may want to protect yourself quite deep, especially since we have a couple Fed events coming up. I have myself protected down here, closer to 56 even, even though my risk reward ratio is more of like a 2 to 1. I just don't trust this market right now for long, so I'd rather have a deeper stop. But that's what I'm seeing so far for right now. And then obviously your trend if indicator, it's telling us that, your 4 hour and your daily are at a -1, so slightly bearish, and then your hourly is neutral. So let's finally take a look at our simple map and see what that's doing. So going over here, let's go ahead and take a look at our simple map. So our simple map, again, like we've been talking about, not a lot of liquidity to the downside, until we get to 50, 58, 140, it looks like, then you start getting into the millions. These are all 100Xers just trying to front run this pool, right? And try to drive this up to the upside. To the upside, you don't really get into the millions until about 59,000, it looks like. So, not the best sign for the bulls. It's a great sign for the bears, the people that are shorting, because obviously we have all of this right next to us. But the smaller time frames still paint the picture that, we're more probable to take this out or take some of this out than moving up first, right? And then finally moving into the swing chart here. So, again, this is the 4 hour and the daily, and it's still painting the picture that now we're starting to get into this bigger amount of liquidity. So it even paints more of the picture, right, that, we're going to take this part of this side out at least first before we start driving back up. And we can see we're in the middle of this band right here. So there's not enough influence, or there's not enough people's orders for shorts to really start driving us back up yet, in my opinion, with this. So it's just not, again, not looking great so far for the bulls. This is definitely a bear's market, and it's looking more of a potential to at least get into the 57s, if not the 56s, before we start moving up, before we get that short liquidity to start being able to move up more. So anyways, guys, that's what I have for you for right now. As usual, if you guys want to use Trading Different, highly, highly recommend it. It really helps you paint a bigger picture overall. Feel free to use my code Sean. So it's tradingdifferent.com/code/Sean to get 10% off of this tool. So anyways, that is what I have for you for right now. I will keep you updated in the Sin City Crypto group and on X. Um, that's pretty much what I'm seeing in the market, though, as far as our sentiment in the smaller time frames and the bigger time frames. Again, not a great environment to trade in. It's really kind of acting almost like a weekend, where it's a low volume weekend and it's just chopping around here. Not a lot of volume or volatility to really be able to make a decent amount of money off of this market, unfortunately. So that being said, I will talk to you guys in the morning. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.